your boy. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking WWE 2K19 and also 2K20 because this is my response to the $1 million challenge which we saw this weekend. Now in this video we're going to talk about improvements if the challenge is set for 2K20 and also my feelings about how the challenge unfolded on this WrestleMania weekend. Now before we get into it, I want to make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on so you stay up to date with all my WWE games content. Now my feelings towards the $1 million challenge was that it's 2K's USP this year. It was their unique selling point. They wanted you to go out and pick up a copy of WWE 2K19, defeat the AJ Styles Tower, and then you would be eligible to enter a promo contest, and if you were selected then you would go on to WrestleMania, and on WrestleMania weekend you would have the opportunity to play AJ Styles for $1 million. That's a big deal. That's life-changing money. And that's how this weekend should have felt. Life-changing and a big deal. But it kind of felt a bit flat. And the reason why I say this is because this wasn't just an opportunity for those 4 participants who had the opportunity to challenge AJ Styles. This was an opportunity for 2K to showcase a WWE game in a competitive nature. And it fell flat on all fronts because they didn't live stream the quarter and the semi-finals, so we could actually see the full matches to see how good these guys are. And it wasn't all about them being the best of the best, because after all this did come down to a promo contest, but it would have been nice to see. And it felt like these matches that took place also lacked some certain rules. Gentlemen's rules. I'll touch on that slightly later on in this commentary. But the quarter and the semis were not live streamed, and I feel like the ball was dropped there because 2K had multiple platforms where they could have streamed this from. They could have done it on their own YouTube channel, they could have done it on a Twitch channel, they could have done it with Up Up Down Down. Xavier Woods was present. So there were so many opportunities, but instead they just decided to record it, post it out via Twitter via a few pictures and photos, and then put a compilation together in which was shown later on when Stefan T. Benson challenged AJ Styles in the final, which was shown before NXT TakeOver. So there were so many opportunities to do this live, so people would get excited about this, those out there watching, but they didn't choose to do any of these. All they actually ended up doing was posting out pictures via Twitter and recording it and putting together a compilation which was shown later on in the final where Stefan T. Benson challenged AJ Styles. Now I would have liked to have seen the quarter, the semi and the finals all done at the same time, because if you live stream that and you were watching, people then could have decided who they did and they did not want to win. It would have been exciting seeing the matches be played out, and then when you get to the final you've kind of backed that person all the way through. So it builds up and it makes it more interesting, but because they split it out, I didn't think it worked. Now whether or not they did the entire thing before NXT TakeOver, if you put certain time limits on it, I believe it could have worked, or if they just did it all at Access, it didn't really matter, but it did need to have the entirety, and my feeling was it did need to be live, but it wasn't. So let's now talk about the final, and did 2K redeem themselves from not live streaming the quarter and the semi-finals? Well, they did, because they live streamed the final before NXT TakeOver. Well, I say that. They live streamed something that was recorded 30 minutes before. So as it happened on the live stream, the result was already out on social media and people knew that the challenger had won $1 million before it even happened. Yeah. So that winner was Stefan T. Benson. Now, I'm going to be honest about the winner. I'm also going to be honest about how I thought this should have unfolded and how it actually did. Because in my mind, I'd built up that this spectacle for winning $1 million was going to be the ultimate experience for that member of the WWE Universe. They'd played the matches at Access, they'd won, they'd be on a high, then they're going to play the final at NXT TakeOver on WrestleMania weekend. You've travelled to New York City and you're getting to play AJ Styles, where you have the opportunity to win $1 million. And you would have expected the host to be backing you, to be behind you. You would have loved the fans to be behind you. Of course, you can never quite tell with a WWE crowd if they are or aren't going to be behind you. But if you won $1 million in that scenario, my goodness, what a celebration. What an emotional experience. I tell you, I would have been in tears. I would have been so humbled by that experience as a gamer. But it didn't feel like that at all. So why didn't it feel like that? Well, the host didn't exactly put it over in the way that he should. Corey Graves pretty much belittled gamers from start to finish, saying that they play out their mum's basement. Yeah, okay, you kind of expect those sort of jokes from Corey Graves, but why not have got maybe, for example, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, to host this? It is WrestleMania weekend after all, and it was for $1 million. Perfect. But they didn't do that. So Corey Graves was pretty much saying, you know, playing a game for $1 million, kind of ridiculous, kind of, you know, devaluing this whole concept that 2K had built for an entire year. So I didn't really like that, but you may be able to forgive Corey Graves just a little bit, because the winner wasn't exactly humble. And again, I'm going to be honest, it felt like the winner had an agenda to put himself over and put himself out there. And I'm all for, you know, people being cocky. I think you do have to, you know, like Tori Wilson said in her Hall of Fame speech, you have to face fear and become strong. And maybe that's what he was doing by putting himself into that strong persona of a heel. But it just made the entire experience very strange, because he cut a promo on AJ saying he was going to take him to Suplex City as he was playing as Brock Lesnar. Fine, cool, talk up a good game if you've got that confidence. But he was also giving it to the crowd. So he was almost, you know, saying boo me, which again, when I weigh out this experience, I felt like it should have been a celebration, you know, for a fan of the WWE Universe to achieve this. And then when he beat AJ Styles, okay, if it was me, I'd be in bits. I said that. I said I'd be in tears. I'd be so grateful. Amazing. But this guy just continued that self-promotion, cutting another promo where I think everybody kind of looked on and thought, what? What's going on here? So it didn't feel like he was interested in the 1 million. He was more interested about, you know, bossing AJ Styles and giving a verbal beatdown, not just to Corey Graves, Xavier Woods, but the entire WWE Universe. And he came across as a bit of an arse. So, you know, I don't know. You know, if that's his thing, that's his gimmick, that's his shtick. But I didn't really think for the player this was about gimmicks. Okay, it makes quite entertaining TV or viewing. Of course it does. And that's kind of what you probably wanted from 2K's perspective. Somebody who is entertaining. That's why you had to do the promo contest, because you knew that in that environment they weren't going to exactly bottle it or be petrified, because some might be. If you're the best gamer, it doesn't mean you're the most confident, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be willing to go out there on stage and play AJ Styles, whereas this guy proved he had that. But I feel that having somebody like that just made the entire experience fall rather flat, because I wanted it to end with, you know, a celebration of winning $1 million as opposed to it being a self-promotional promo. So it didn't quite go to plan. It did serve a purpose. The $1 Million Challenge sold copies of the game, and it did have its WrestleMania moment. Whether or not it was a good WrestleMania moment, I'll leave that up to you. Let me know in the comment section below. But how can we make this better if this concept returns for WWE 2K20? I'm not sure it will, but what can 2K do better? These are my ideas. Well, firstly, before we get into the rules and things, when you actually get to wherever you need to go to win the $1 million, I think that it should be more focused on competitive gaming. So it could be a tournament or a league table, and then the ones that score the most points or who win the tournament then advance to go on to play a certain superstar or challenge for whatever prize is available. You don't have to play a superstar. Maybe it's just a case that you win a championship or something like that. But I feel it should be about the player. But those matches that you have to compete upon to get there, they need to have structure and rules about them. So let's say you're top of the leaderboard and you take those top ones that have scored the most points. They go forward and then they enter into some sort of tournament in which there are competitive rules. And if I was 2K, I would stream each match on their YouTube channel or in an environment or a platform where people can see it, so it's transparent. And then obviously the winner of those matches would then advance to challenge maybe a WWE superstar, or the two that make it to the final, they're taken out to a certain event, WrestleMania or SummerSlam, and they compete for a major prize. That's the foundation of what I'd be looking at for a $1 million challenge or some sort of challenge if it is to continue for WWE 2K20. Now, the actual rules of the matches that we saw this weekend, well, the one match we saw this weekend, were these: win by pinfall or submission, no countouts or disqualifications, a 10-minute time limit, and in the event of a time limit draw, the winner will be determined by the player who has the most health remaining. Now, that last point, I really don't like it. I don't think it should be determined on health or damage, because, you know, you're gonna get a player that's gonna duck out of the match and try and buy their time and run the clock down if they have that opportunity. And we want these matches to be competitive. So I will touch upon what I mentioned earlier, gentlemen's rules. These rules are not specific enough, and 2K could actually go out of their way and set these up for the matches so they are ready for when the player picks up the controller. And things that I'm thinking are, for example, you must only win via a finisher. Now, I actually wouldn't have submissions involved at all, because I think that submissions and the wheel system, I don't really think that many people are that great with the wheel system. But then again, if this is competitive and we are talking about the best of the best, then maybe submissions will be fine. So the jury is not out on that one just yet. But again, if you're going to win, you either have to win by a finisher for pinfall or a submission, which would be a finisher once again. So let's say, for example, you're Sting, you can use the Scorpion Deathlock and make your opponent tap out using the wheel, but you can't make your opponent tap out if you're Sting and you just apply an armbar. So that simple rule then means you'll get a decent finish for these matches. No countouts or disqualification is not a good idea, because then it allows them to bring weapons into play, and once weapons come into play, really the skill of a player is nullified because you can do anything you like. And also when you've got no countouts, you can duck outside the ring and build up your counter meters. It just doesn't make things competitive. So I did see It's My Yard talk about this, and I'm going to steal one of his little pointers. I agree with him on this, that maybe the count should be a 5 count, because then it forces a competitor to go back into the ring and they don't have time to just hide on the outside of the ring. I like that idea. Props to you, Yard, for that one. The 10-minute time limit I think's fine. You could make it 15 max. I think you can determine a winner from that. Whether or not you're just going to do this in a singles match, one-on-one, or whether you have, for example, Yard mentioned this, but we also did do this at Comic-Con, where myself, Smack Talks and Revolution went out with 2K UK to Comic-Con, and we played matches against other people at Comic-Con, and in doing that we played Iron Man matches. So, you know, you'd win by whoever gets the most falls or the most wins in that Iron Man time limit. In this instance would be 10 or 15 minutes. I know Yard mentioned the Iron Man aspect or Iron Woman aspect too. So, you know, that seems again a good way to work it, because then if the time limit does run out, you're not relying upon, you know, who's got the most health left or who's received the most damage. You're actually going off of a very clear number here. It's the most wins to losses. That's a much better way to operate. So I think those sort of small added stipulations, there are plenty more, and I would urge you to go and check out Yard's video where he talked about certain rules that could be implemented, but just simple gentleman's rules, because if you have that, then you know you're going to get a good match. And what does that lead to? Well, it leads to a spectacle. People will get to watch and see what they think of the matches as they unfold. They'll be more entertaining than a spam fest. And if you've played online, you'll know that 90% of matches are just spam fests. People repeating running moves. Stefan T. Benson was rolling out the running German suplex repeatedly to kick off his match against AJ Styles. And I kind of think, you know, there needs to be some thought about that too, whether 2K can actually implement anything into their system this year for 2K20 that could nullify that even more. That would be great. But those small additions in itself would make A, the game more competitive, and B, more entertaining for anybody watching it. So if you are watching a live stream, you're actually then getting invested in it, and it's building a community, which I thought this event this year would have done, because I know so many people that were looking forward to watching these 4 participants battle it out to win $1 million and play AJ Styles, and then they didn't get to see it. And then when they did see the final, they felt it was very flat. And let's just touch upon AJ Styles and his gameplay. Now, when somebody reaches the final and has to play a superstar, how likely is it that the superstar is going to beat the challenger who's travelled to WrestleMania? It's a competition by 2K. How's it gonna look on 2K if Styles then just bats them aside and beats them? So my viewpoint on this is, it doesn't matter if AJ Styles is the best gamer. It doesn't matter if AJ Styles is the worst gamer. Whoever got to the final was going to win $1 million. So next time this comes around, it may need to be thought about how that can be made more competitive. And I would say you have 2 challengers play each other with 2 superstars in their corner. Then you get that competitive final. And I tell you what, some of the matches that I played and I think this was on 2K18, with fans of the WWE Universe at Comic-Con, we produced some awesome matches with those gentleman rules. So it is achievable. It's not perfect, and there is things that 2K might need to do within the game to tighten it up, but it is achievable. You've also seen me participate in a 2K King of the Ring style tournament with other YouTubers. Chris Denker set that up, and with that, again, the matches were competitive and fun. So it is doable, it is possible, it can be made into a spectacle, but I think it needs a lot more thought. I mean, we had a year for this, and the actual culmination of it all just didn't feel like it should. So I want to get your views and opinions on this in the comment section below. I want to know what you thought of this year's $1 Million Challenge. I'm not asking you the question if you think it's rigged or not. Other people are asking that already. But I am asking you, what do you think should have happened as part of this? How would you have liked to have seen it unfold? And what did you think of the overall presentation this year for it? Did you think that, for example, Corey Graves talking it down kind of ruined it as a spectacle? And also as well, the actual winner themselves, was you kind of feeling like me that it was all a bit strange, that he didn't seem ecstatic about winning $1 million? That's just how I felt. But if we introduce gentlemen's rules, what sort of rules would you implement? I'd love to hear them, and this video has gone on far too long already. So much to talk about when it comes to this subject. I'll be happy to make another video and replying to some of your comments of what you think. But let me know. The $1 Million Challenge, would you like to see it return for 2K20? If so, how would you like it to be set up? Would it be $1 million? Would it be a championship? Maybe if it was a championship that could be defended each year by the winner, that would be cool. And if it was a tournament based idea, then the champion could get knocked out in round 1. Maybe he has to participate and see if he can venture towards the final once again. So many ideas, so many ways to make this competitive, and now I want to hear from you. So all that's left to be said is enjoy WrestleMania tonight. I hope it's a good one. We've had a great NXT, we've had a great Hall of Fame. This now needs to be the icing on the cake, and this is Delzinski signing out.